The F&M says school policing not addressing violence.
We have incidents occurring in the schools.
Crimes of opportunity on the rise, according to police. Researchers encourage Bahamians to pay more attention to animal abusers.
This might be the sort of person who may need some sort of assistance.
Plus, a group of young Bahamian women makes an important pinky promise.
When women get together and they commit themselves to do something positive, you have to watch out for us.
I'm Nikia DeVoe, and this is NB12 Weekend. Weekend. Thanks for spending your Sunday evening with us. Former Minister of Education Desmond Bannister says the Free National Movement has proof that the government's school-based policing program is not solving anything. The F&M senator telling reporters today that the program is also labeling students as potential criminals. Our Charisma Robinson reports.
Bannister says police presence isn't helping, as he has received a number of reports of violence that occurred during the first week.
In a democratic society, as we have, to require the government to release information such as this, what has happened during the first week of school. Unfortunately, we have a government now in place that brought incomplete and inaccurate information to Parliament. They promised the Bahamian people that they would give you correct information on crime. We still don't have that information. And quite frankly, I see the same thing happening with schools. We have incidents occurring in the schools, and the police officers are not going to be permitted to report those incidents, and the government is going to keep it hush-hush.
While Bannister did not want to provide any specific details on these alleged acts of violence, and none of them could be verified with police up to airtime, he says what has happened already on certain school campuses is of major concern for the party, and Bahamians have a right to know. He says it also shows that the vast number of police in schools do not help students flourish. He says research has pointed to this in the United States.
In the United States, they put police officers in schools in many districts. They've found that having the police in schools does not cut down on school violence, does not cut down on school crime. But what they also discovered is that it creates a self-fulfilling prophecy, so that children are treated as though they're suspect and as though they're criminals. And so a number of those children, more than would ordinarily, those children fulfill that prophecy and actually become incarcerated. And so it increases the high incarceration rate in the United States. That is one of the things that they found out. The other thing that they found out is that for very minor things, police officers end up pulling children before the courts.
Bannister says parents also are right to be concerned that their children are being sent to schools where armed police officers might be dealing with their children. Education Minister Jerome Fitzgerald has said that some qualified and authorized police officers would be armed when they entered school campuses. While President of the Bahamas Union of Teachers Belinda Wilson has endorsed the government's program, Bannister says a number of teachers have expressed to him that they do not share the same view. He says some teachers are afraid of the kind of environment this would create for students.
You have created a self-fulfilling prophecy. You've said the schools are hotbeds of crime. So you tell the children that. You tell the children, you are all, not just the bad element, you are all suspect. We have to have guns in school. We have to police you with real police officers who intimidate children. You can't use this learning environment as a growing environment because you're always wondering about this police officer who's standing there with a gun. You can't develop like that. Some of those children, that is going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy.
The former education minister is once again calling on the government to clearly define the limits within which the police may act on school campuses. He says police nor the Minister of Education appear to have a clear understanding. Reporting for NB12, I'm Charisma Robinson.
Two teenage boys allegedly robbed a woman at gunpoint last night. The 17-year-old and 15-year-old spent the night in a jail cell after police caught them just moments after the crime. Police say the victim had just arrived home at Bellot Road around 8:30 last night when one of the boys approached her with a handgun and robbed her of cash and 2 cell phones. The suspect fled the scene on a bicycle but didn't get far. According to reports, officers from the Selective Enforcement Team arrested the 2 suspects in the area. One of them was found with a handgun and a quantity of ammunition. Well, head of Urban Renewal Superintendent Stephen Dean says the force is seeing more and more cases of robberies that could have been prevented and are the result of opportunities being presented. He says women in particular are not being cautious enough.
We believe that more than 50% of the armed robbery matters could have been prevented if some basic precautions could have been in place. We're saying to particularly females, you're jogging, be conscious of the area that you're jogging in. You cannot just be talking with the earphones on, with the radio playing. Be conscious, know your surroundings, know who you're dealing with. Parents, please, to your children. We find out some children getting involved in criminals they don't know.
While there are a number of contributing factors, police find that people are still displaying and leaving cash in the open.
We are saying to persons, be careful, particularly if you're going to travel home late at night, after 12. Contact somebody at home to let them know I'm coming home. Let the house be lit. Let there be lights on the outside so persons can know there's some sort of activity. We have 1 or 2 cases where persons pull up home, everything is dark around there, the criminal is just waiting on them to rob them. Had the scenario been different, we believe that matter could have been prevented. Try to get a private security or arrange for a police escort in some cases. Speak to the divisional commander in the area. Please do not take this on your own. We are saying to persons, you might be confronted by an armed robbery. If he asks you for the cash, if he asks you for whatever, just hand it over. Do not try to take on the armed robber. You might think you have an advantage, but be careful. That armed robber, he is fighting for his life. He doesn't want to be caught.
The first known study on childhood harm towards animals in the Bahamas revealed some disturbing findings last year. More recently, a study of violence in the life of prison inmates prior to conviction revealed that many of them intentionally harmed animals growing up. Now, researchers and animal activists are stressing that acts of violence toward animals must be taken seriously.
People who just think, well, it's only a dog, it's just a dog, it doesn't really matter. Behind that cruelty, behind that harm, there's the potential of that child or the victimizer learning cruelty, which at a later stage could be applied in another situation, which could be detrimental to other people.
Findings of the recent study, Violence in the Life of an Inmate Prior to Conviction and its Association with Crimes Against Persons, show that the level of harm towards animals that was inflicted by inmates is higher than in the general population. Of the 317 Her Majesty's Prisons inmates that were surveyed, 170 of them said they had harmed animals when they were children. 60% of that number said they enjoyed the acts. Principal researcher William Fielding said the findings may mean that Bahamian society needs to ensure that children learn empathy rather than violence through their interactions with animals.
People can learn that empathy, they feel loved by the animal and they can express their love towards the animal. And that clearly must be a benefit to someone who may deep down feel unloved by the people around them.
The Bahamas Humane Society has an educational summer program where children learn the basics of animal care and humane treatment. They watch educational DVDs, interact with the adoption animals, and participate in question and answer sessions with the staff. Education Officer and Shelter Manager Percy Grant also visits various schools throughout New Providence promoting animal welfare. He recently told NB12 that more schools need to make the program mandatory. Fielding agrees.
Programs which are optional probably attract the wrong sort of person. They're going to attract the animal lovers. What we want to do is to attract the people who would not ordinarily interact with an animal. And so by getting animal welfare into the curriculum means that it and used by teachers means that every child is exposed to animal welfare and the importance of caring for animals, and what is acceptable and what is not acceptable behavior.
Laura Kimball, president of nonprofit volunteer group Bahamas Alliance for Animal Rights and Kindness, or BARC, also stressed the importance of animal education programs. In a recent email, she wrote that the government passes over the animal issue as it is not important enough to deal with, and because the government feels other issues regarding humans are more important. But Kimball says it all comes as a package. Fielding suggests that his studies point to the need for cross-reporting animal cruelty to the Social Services Department, because it could mean that there is also domestic and child abuse in the home.
What you see with the harm towards animals is just one element of the whole matrix of violence which that household tends to be at elevated risk of being exposed to.